Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to the March 5th, 2026 regular meeting of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners. And we're going to begin our meeting today with an invocation from Elder Bruce Wells. Please come on up, Elder Wells, from Renolda Presbyterian Church. And it'll be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Bessie. I'd like to invite everyone to stand if you are able.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bruce Wells. I'm active in Renolda Presbyterian Church here in Winston, and I've been asked to open us in prayer. Let us bow our heads and pray. Dear God, we come before you asking your blessings on this meeting tonight. Father, every man, every woman present wants your very best for Forsyth County. We pray for a spirit of excellence and patience for each of us as we speak and as we listen. We are one nation under God, and we seek that your total will would be done tonight. We pray for clarity and confidence for each person speaking in an atmosphere of openness and patience when we disagree. Help us, Father, to operate in unity and kindness as we do your work. God, we pray your blessings and your Holy Spirit on everyone here. And we thank you in Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Elder Wells, for being here tonight. Citizens who are interested in participating in the public session portion of the meeting, you may do so remotely by calling 336-422-1200. You'll be placed on hold until the public session begins, and that number again is 336-422-1200. Members of the audience who are interested in participating in the public session of the meeting, you just need to fill out a speaker card, and if you've not done so, they're right outside the door. You can do that, and you can actually hand it, just come right up and hand it to our clerk, Ashley Matthews, after that. Before we address the items on the agenda, though, we do have a special recognition, and we'd like to recognize the Anders Family Farm as a finalist for the 2026 North Carolina Small Farmer of the Year Award. And I'd like to welcome and invite Leslie Rose, who is our Cooperative Extension Director, to sort of introduce the Anders family and tell us a little bit about the award. And we're actually North Carolina A&T is going to present something to them. Leslie Rose, thank you.
Thank you, and good evening, Commissioners. So I'm excited to be here today to celebrate one of our local farmers. So as you may know, North Carolina Cooperative Extension is a partnership between our local county government, North Carolina State University, and North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. So NC-A&T State University Extension hosts Small Farms Week every March to celebrate the work of small farmers across North Carolina. And this year is the 40th anniversary of that event. The event connects farmers. They get to learn about innovative agriculture techniques and the agriculture research that Extension does and connect with other professionals. So we're lucky enough this year that we are hosting one of our own farmers being recognized during Small Farms Week. So Anna Anders with Anders Family Farm, she is a local farm that works closely with us in Extension, and our agent, Celine Richard, works closely with her. So Anders Family Farm is in Tobaccoville. They focus on hydroponic growing, and they've been honored as the regional finalist for North Carolina's Small Farmer of the Year, and you'll have to tune in to Small Farms Week later in March to see if she wins. But I'd like to invite Anna Anders to come forward and give her a moment to speak if she would like.
We are humbled, very, very honored to be nominated for this. We've worked really hard, and we are glad to be a part of the community that we service with schools and restaurants and food hubs across the state. It is a rewarding job, and we are very, very humble and very, very thankful.
Thank you.
And we are lucky enough to have some of our partners from NC State and NCA&T. So I'm going to invite Dr. Ray McKinney, who's our Associate Dean and Administrator of Cooperative Extension at NCA&T University, to come up and speak and present y'all with something.
Good evening, Commissioners, and thank you for the opportunity to come before you to present this award tonight to the Anders Family Farm, Anna Anders. And I'd just like to say that Small Farms Week is more than a celebration. It is it's 40 years of celebrating the proud accomplishments and contributions of the state small farmers. We know North Carolina agriculture representing a $111 billion industry, but I want everyone to know that at the core and at the heart of that are small farms. They may have gone and become big farms, or big farms may have incorporated them, but at the heart of this, we began as small farmers. This idea started, like I said, 40 years ago, and has been nurtured over the many years. And so the Anders Farm is just another representation of the proud work and the tradition of the state's small farmers. And so we like to, again, thank you for the opportunity to present this here tonight before you. And I will call upon Dr. Shannon Wiley, who will join me in making the formal presentation. Dr. Wiley.
So good evening again, and thank you all so much for allowing us, as Dr. McKinney mentioned, to just have a little bit of time during your meeting to present and recognize the Anders family and Anna Anders. So we are certainly excited to celebrate 40 years of Small Farms Week, and we are certainly excited to be here in Forsyth celebrating one of our Small Farmers of the Year regional finalists. So thank you, Leslie Rose. Thank you, commissioners. And Anna, I'm going to read you this plaque here, and it says, Small Farms Week, Deep Roots, Strong Future, 40 Years of Small Farm Impact. Anna Anders, Anders Family Farm, North Carolina Small Farmer of the Year 2026 Regional Finalist, North Carolina A&T State University Cooperative Extension. So congratulations to you. Yes, yes, yes.
While our honorees are going back to their seat, I'll also offer some congratulations to 3 of our commissioners who were successful in last Tuesday's primary. 2 of the 3 are here. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Tanya McDaniel and Commissioner Dan Bessie, and in her absence, Commissioner Shay Woodbury. So congratulations to all of you. I know you've spent a lot of time in the last 2 months, so there you go. First item on the agenda tonight is approval of minutes for the meeting of February the 12th, 2026. Do I have a motion? So moved. We have a motion by Commissioner Bessie?
Second.
Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Madam Clerk, do we have any calls or cards for the public session?
Mr. Chairman, we have 11 speaker cards.
All righty.
The first speaker is Ralston. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Okay, thanks. So, good evening, Chairman Martin, Vice Chair Wisenhunt, and all commissioners. My name is Ralston. I'm a Forsyth County resident, have been for 47 years. And I'm here today because I understand that you're going to be considering many important priorities related to state legislation and your recommendations. And I know there are a lot of important things such as, cost controls, healthcare, Medicaid expansion, violence prevention, education needs, a lot of really important needs. Tonight, I'm here to ask you to elevate a priority that really strengthens multiple outcomes in a lot of areas. So here's my ask. My ask that you make state funding and public policy support for greenways, trails, and safe pedestrian and bicycle connections a high priority legislative request. Now, this is one of those investments that really checks a lot of boxes. It supports public health by making activity and mental health restoration accessible. It supports economic development by attracting businesses, employees, and visitors. It supports community safety by building safer routes for people to cycle, walk, run. And last of all, it really strengthens social capital with shared public spaces that build connections and resilience. Now, you have one of your own priorities or goals for active living and vibrant living. And I believe you will agree that greenways are really an infrastructure backbone for that goal. Now, there's also one more really, really important practical policy ask. That is ask the state legislature to repeal state restrictions that limit pedestrian and bicycle funding from the State Transportation Highway Fund. North Carolina has a lot of progress to build on, things like the Great Trails State Program, which will have their annual conference here this summer in Winston-Salem. And yet, our neighboring states continue to advance strong funding for trails and multimodal projects without the legislative restrictions we have to deal with in our own state. So again, my request is straightforward. As you finalize state legislative priorities, please include a clear ask for increased sustained state investment in greenways and trails, plus policy flexibility that treats walking and biking as legitimate transportation options. Thank you for listening and for your leadership.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Will Ely. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Will Ely. I reside at 120 East Devonshire Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 27127. I'm the Green Economy Program Director for Piedmont Environmental Alliance, a Forsyth County-based nonprofit that has sparked more than $6 million in new clean energy investment locally and has brought more than $3 million worth of federal climate money back to our county in just the past 2 years alone. Piedmont Environmental Alliance and our members and partner groups at Sierra Club, Yadkin River Creeper, and others are here with me tonight. If you could please raise your hand. To categorically oppose the SEC methane pipeline, which burdens Forsyth County with the high costs of safety monitoring, potential emergency response, cleanup, and the near guaranteed risk of contaminated watersheds and air quality. As you all well know, this proposed project is equal parts unpopular, dangerous, and redundant. In light of extreme community opposition and the Mountain Valley Pipeline being constructed nearby, we greatly appreciate y'all's work holding Williams to account at every step of this process. To the point, and having been at last Monday's briefing, we think that $55,000 for Triad Park property as at best unserious and unfair, unless we forget methane gas prices are at all-times high right now, and Williams' biggest customer, Duke Energy, just posted record profits of $5 billion. As we have seen play out in other communities, their business model socializes all the risks and privatizes all of the profits. So as stewards of Forsyth County, all of us in this room tonight must demand our fair share. Having been at this, briefing this past Monday, I can't thank y'all enough for the critical questions and concerns that y'all raised. Distinguishing yourselves from Forsyth County Commission at this time is absolutely paramount. Just reiterating that we hope that any future compensation, should the pipeline be built, would be directed towards Forsyth County's own clean energy and sustainability goals, and our organization would be more than happy to convene with county staff and commission to exchange best practices, thoughts, and priorities. Thank you all so much for y'all's time and service.
The next speaker is Deborah Dembski. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hey, good evening. I'll be brief. I'm Deborah Dembski, 1722 Princeton Street, Winston-Salem. On behalf of the North Carolina Sierra Club, we're disappointed that DEQ, FERC, and the Army Corps of Engineers approved the permits and that the fight isn't over. But we're very grateful to this board for your resolution to try to convince the agencies to uphold their duty to protect North Carolina citizens and the environment. Please be sure to heed Caroline's warning that I contacted you about earlier, ensuring that there's a good exit clause in the agreement and to sign on to the amicus briefs in the battles to come. Thank you for your dedication to the people of Forsyth County and beyond. And thank you for more evening meetings. Have a good evening.
The next speaker is Jim Gallagher. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jim Gallagher. I'm a staff attorney at the Children's Law Center, 102 West 3rd Street, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I'm here to thank you, and I want to say that you're providing funding to the Children's Law Center helps many children and families in Forsyth County. And I want to tell you about one of those children that you have helped. The parents of Sarah lived only a few miles apart, but at the first custody hearing, the judge saw that the parents were so far apart, knowing how to raise a child together, that they may as well have lived in separate states. The judge also saw that the little girl was caught in the middle of a parent's lack of skills and their war with each other. The judge appointed Children's Law Center to give Sarah a voice in the custody battle, which would determine her entire future. Through our work, we got the parents to take parenting classes at Parenting Path so that they could learn to work together for the sake of their child. Over several months, we monitored their progress as their skills developed and visited their homes during the weekdays and weekends to see how they were caring for Sarah. We talked to their friends and relatives to learn more about how each parent was actually treating their child. We helped one parent get therapy to deal with past trauma that was hindering knowing how to better love and care for Sarah. We provided a report and testified about our recommendations, which the court embraced. Though the parents don't live with each other, they are now both focusing on what is best for Sarah instead of themselves. Prior to our involvement, Sarah faced growing up with trauma in her life. Now, through the work of the Children's Law Center, Sarah has a better chance to grow up and thrive with loving parents. On behalf of Sarah and all the children we serve, we want to thank you for caring about them. Thank you.
The next speaker is Chris Pepper. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Chris Pepper. I'm the Operations Manager at Children's Law Center. My address is 1035 Deepwood Court, Winston-Salem, North Carolina, 27104. And I just wanted to say that I am relatively new to Forsyth County. I am a former tech worker from Silicon Valley. I moved here about 5 years ago, and one of my goals when I moved here is I wanted to, I was ready to wrap up my career in tech, and I was wanting to find a place where I could work and give back to the community, work for an organization where I believed in their mission and really believed in the impact they were making on the local community. And I chose to work at the Children's Law Center. When I first joined there, I knew we were doing important work, but I didn't really understand the full impact of it till I saw it up close. And I'm very proud to work there and to be driving their mission and vision, helping driving their mission and vision. Every day our team is meeting with children and families, helping them navigate through some of the most difficult situations a person, let alone a children, could face. And we're giving them support so they don't have to navigate these situations alone. In my short time at the CLC, I've heard stories from attorneys about the casework they're doing, the school visits, the home visits, and really thinking about the child's life holistically and really making giving the child and the family hope for a brighter future. The amount of care each attorney gives really makes an impact on the kids' lives. The Children's Law Center is small, but our reach is profound. After working there, I can say with confidence that we are creating a lasting impact for some of Forsyth County's most vulnerable children, and the impact benefits every one of us in the community. And I'm really here tonight to thank you for the funding that you provide for us. I fill out our grant report every month, and I'm constantly reminded of the help that Forsyth County is giving the Children's Law Center, and just wanted to thank you very much for that tonight.
The next speaker is Iris Sunshine. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Chairman Martin and County Commissioners. I am Iris Sunshine, Executive Director of the Children's Law Center, Central North Carolina, 102 West 3rd Street. On behalf of the Board of Directors and all of the Children's Law Center staff, I thank you for the generous support of the Community Grant Award for our custody advocacy program in Forsyth County this fiscal year. Children's Law Center has been advocating for children in domestic violence cases and high conflict custody cases since 2005. Our team of attorneys are incredibly dedicated, compassionate, tenacious, and highly trained. They forge a bond of trust with the children they serve, and district court judges and members of the bar trust our reports and our work. Every day, Children's Law Center is the champion for voiceless children from across this county. Your investment in the Children's Law Center has been helping our team positively impact the lives of Forsyth County's children who witness domestic violence, suffer the consequences of parental substance abuse, and/or navigate a parent's mental illness, among other adverse childhood experiences. Our work on each case is time-intensive and individualized to help mitigate negative effects of trauma and adversity experienced by our young clients. Children like the middle school boy who saw his father assault his mother in a drunken rage, or the tiny girl Jim Gallagher just described to you both of whom are on paths to a safer, healthier childhood because of your commitment. We are so grateful for our long partnership with Bridges to Hope Family Justice Center of Forsyth County. Through this collaborative, our attorneys have received 112 referrals so far this fiscal year and contacted each of the individuals to explain our role as advocates for their child. Thank you for investing in Children's Law Center's vision for the children we serve, to increase children's potential to become emotionally healthy adults through fostering their sense of hope and empowerment. In the months ahead, we look forward to continuing to serve more of the children who need the Children's Law Center and contributing to a stronger community. Thank you.
The next speaker is Doug Evans. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Commissioners. Doug Evans, 800 Chatham Road. And there were three issues that I actually wanted to bring before you. One is that I have repeatedly asked to be included in the public comment at Forsyth Technical Community College, and that has not happened. And I've documented that since September. I actually sent an email to the State Attorney General regarding open meetings problems. I would also say that you should certainly be digging more into the bond spending that goes on at Forsyth Tech. It is of chief concern to me. That is why in November of 2024, I contacted the state auditor's office and alerted them that I was concerned about the spending and financial management of Forsyth Technical Community College and the choice of Janet Spriggs as the president based on the condition in which she left her previous institution. So that's number one. Number two, I live at 800 Chatham Road, which was a $48 million investment to build out the Mill 800 building. There are massive radon issues in that building. It has had 3 mitigation systems placed in there. I would encourage you to reach out to the owners, which is a private equity company out of Chicago. The building has since sold a couple months ago, is my understanding. But I'm very concerned mostly because there's a lot of young residents, a lot of college kids that live in that building, a lot of doctors, a lot of nurses, a lot of people who could be greatly affected by something they wouldn't even know. And the reason I also say that is because most recently, they resealed all of the ground floor areas after doing a radon test. And that was a chief concern to me. And the last is regarding the county schools. I went on the county commission's website and could not find Article 4 of the county ordinances anywhere which pertains to the historical designation for properties here. One of the things that you need to consider is that you as a county commission could create a lot more restrictions on that designation. And if you read the city's 2030 plan, their proposal includes expansion of the historic tax credit for downtown development. The problem with that is that these buildings are generating millions and millions and millions of dollars. Everyone celebrates the fact that Grayland is going to be hosting the German soccer team, but doesn't consider the fact that Grayland has a 50% tax deferral. So I think that if we want to blame the state on why the county doesn't have enough money for additional teachers and teachers for students who have special needs, we maybe need to look inside at the problem with the way that we've set up the historic tax credit, because the county is losing millions and millions of dollars on that every year. Thank you.
The next speaker is Sophie Kowalski. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Sophie Kowalski, and I reside at 5097 River Chase Ridge, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Good evening. My name is Charlie Einstein. I reside at 3231 Kinnaman Road. I'm a sophomore at Reynolds High School. Teen mental health challenges are increasing, and many students struggle silently. Often, students don't immediately go to a counselor. They open up to first a trusted teacher, coach, or staff member. But many adults in our schools don't feel fully prepared to respond when a student shows signs of anxiety, depression, and emotional distress. Our county has 16 high schools serving thousands of students. Nationally, 1 in 5 teens experience a mental health condition each year, yet many don't receive help early enough. Youth Mental Health First Aid, offered by Mental Health First Aid, is an evidence-based program that trains adults to recognize warning signs and connect teens to appropriate support. The training takes about 8 hours total, and certification lasts for 3 years. We respectfully request that the county fund youth mental health first aid training for 5 staff members in each of our 16 high schools, a total of 80 trained adults within the next school year. This cost-effective investment compared to hiring additional staff. To further expand the impact, the 5 trained staff members at each school could share what they learned during professional development sessions. The train-the-trainer model would allow schools to increase awareness without significantly increasing costs. Because the educators understand their school culture, their students' needs, and more, they can tailor their information to fit their specific community. By taking this step, you would expand mental health support across every high school in our county in a measurable, realistic, and sustainable way. Thank you for your time and for supporting the well-being of our students in our community.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Chun Sho Chin. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Chun Sao Chen. I live at 7263 Hunt Gate Drive in Kernersville. So I recently gone down, I guess, like the rabbit hole of trying to oppose a special use permit in the county. And so I guess some of my concerns are that it's not very clear how to do it. So the sign that's posted takes you to the City of Winston-Salem website, and then you kind of follow through the process there, but that's only for the city and not for the county. And it's not until, I guess, you call the county and I guess the county staff explains to you how to do it, then you kind of learn how to actually oppose the special use permit. Yeah, so I guess that's my main concern. It's not very clear. If you guys wouldn't mind taking a look at it and I guess seeing if there's some other improvements that could be made, that would be nice. And I guess all the staff at the county and at the city has been very helpful with, I guess, kind of like digging through this process. Yeah, thank you.
Good, thank you. We have a joint city-county planning, but you've raised a good point about apparently some confusion when you go to the website, so thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Mike Barisi. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Mike Barisi. My address is 3331 Healy Drive. Former candidate for commissioner seeking the at-large position. Good evening. Running for a seat in the county commission has been one of the greatest privileges of my life. Over the course of my campaign, I walked the streets of our county, met residents, and engaged directly with people about the issues that impact their daily lives. Those conversations strengthened my respect for this community and deepened my belief that our county has tremendous potential. Throughout my campaign, my central message was that we need leadership change. I spoke firmly and repeatedly about that belief because it reflected what I was hearing from many citizens. I chose to be direct. However, I also recognize something important. Calling for leadership change carries weight. It affects not just policy discussion, but the individuals who now serve. To the members of this commission, I want to say this clearly. If my message came across as dismissive of your service or did not convey the full scope of the work you do, that was not my intention. For that, I offer my sincere and straightforward apology. Elections are about contrast and choice, but governing is about responsibility, and regardless of the differences in perspective, the work of the commissioners deserve serious respect. To the voters who supported me, thank you. Your encouragement and belief in me meant more than you know. Though I did not win this primary, my commitment to this county has not changed. Leadership is not defined solely by holding office. It is demonstrated through continued involvement, accountability, and dedication to the well-being of the community. It was a privilege to meet so many of our citizens, and I will continue to serve this county with the same energy, the same conviction, and the same commitment that guided my campaign. Thank you.
The last speaker is Marcy West. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm happy to be here on this evening meeting. Thank you for adding these meetings. I appreciate it. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. So first, I wanted to talk about the Kransco pipeline. I must say that I'm just so angry that we've been forced into this decision. I understand that with FERC making their decision, we don't really have a lot of choice, but I really would like to just express to the company this whole idea of giving us a very tight timeline, giving us a price that does not seem to be a fair market value is quite disturbing. I would recommend that we do what the woman from Sierra Club recommended, which is to add into any lawsuits that might be out there and to make sure that we have a very good agreement on our end. So I wanted to say that. I also wanted to speak about the state legislative agenda and some requests that I have. I would like to urge that the state pass the budget. We are the only state in the entire country that does not have a budget, and that is just very embarrassing, and it is something that our legislators should get on and do. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we really do need to have more funding for education. And I would like it to be focused, those requests to be focused in very specific areas. So number one is for them to remove the cap that they currently have on funding for EC students. 13% is some number that's been picked out of the air, and we are required to provide those services to EC students, and we don't have any control over the percentage of those students. So that should be removed. And it's a very reasonable request to make. It shouldn't be partisan. It should be very reasonable. The second request has to do with the formula that's used to calculate assistant principals. That formula needs to be adjusted so we have at least one assistant principal in every single building. It's a safety issue. We talk over and over again about how we need to have safety in our schools, and the state needs to support that. It's another thing that really shouldn't be partisan. It shouldn't make a difference. It's something that we really should go ahead and do. And then the third thing is really to request that the state reinstitute an income cap on vouchers. If you look at states that have unlimited vouchers, they eventually wind up being in severe financial distress. There's no reason that 3/4 or 2/3 of these vouchers should be going to families that are making high incomes. If you could go ahead and advocate for that, I would appreciate it. So I thank all of you for your work, and I look forward to the next year. Thanks.
All righty, thank you. Mrs. County Manager, we're ready to continue with the remainder of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, Commissioner, staff, and guests. The agenda items before you have been briefed and hopefully questions answered. Agenda item number 3 is a resolution authorizing the acceptance of a building reuse grant from the North Carolina Department of Commerce Rural Economic Development Division to support the relocation of Foster Cabinets Company, Inc. in Forsyth County. This resolution provides the county authority to administer the grant, which is pass-through funding from North Carolina Commerce to Foster Cabinets in an amount not to exceed $350,000.
Do we have a motion?
Move approve.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilson and a second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 4 is a resolution authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding for the Winston-Salem Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. Hunter Stazek from our TPO administrator was asked to provide a brief overview of this item at this meeting.
Thanks for coming back.
Thank you. Good evening, Chairman Martin and members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Hunter Stazek, and I am the TPO administrator for the Winston-Salem Area Transportation Planning Organization, and I'm here tonight to give a very brief version of the presentation that you heard on Monday, essentially asking you to reauthorize and re-enter our Memorandum of Understanding for the Winston-Salem Area Transportation Planning Organization. So with that, I will dive right into the presentation, and we'll skip the roadmap and go right into what the Winston-Salem Area Transportation Planning Organization is. The TPO is our local MPO, or Metropolitan Planning Organization, which is a federally designated forum for areas of 50,000 or more people created by the Federal Aid Highway Act of 1962. Ours was established for this area that you can see on the screen, going from Winston-Salem north to King, south to Midway, east to Kernersville, and west to Louisville. And it brings together all of those municipalities and many transportation agencies within that region to coordinate decisions on adopting transportation plans and making funding decisions for projects within that area. To give you a brief concept of the plans that the Metropolitan Planning Organization focuses on most, we'll start with the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, which is visualized at the top of the funnel that you can see on this screen today. This is a 20-year inventory of all of the transportation improvements that are needed as recommended by staff from across of each of those municipalities and identified by local boards. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan funnels this down even further by applying fiscal constraint, and it essentially looks at what the planned and programmed projects are going to be over the next 20 years, looking at forecasted revenues and costs of those projects over the next 20 years. From there, it gets even narrower, and the TPO is charged with developing, in cooperation with the state, a transportation improvement program, which is a 10-year construction and funding schedule. In the state of North Carolina, this is a document that is updated every 2 to 4 years. And we'll talk a little bit about the MPO's role in developing that in just a second. Again, we bring together multiple agencies. One of the things that you'll see in the Memorandum of Understanding is that we represent and are represented by 12 municipalities, portions of 4 counties, including Forsyth, Davie, Davidson, and Stokes counties, North Carolina Department of Transportation, including Highway Division 9, 3 transit agencies, the Winston-Salem Transit Authority, Davidson County Transportation System, and the Piedmont Authority for Regional Transportation, 1 airport, the Smith-Reynolds Airport, and we are overseen and cooperate with the United States Department of Transportation's Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. All told, this area represents about 450,000 people. Moving on to the structure and how the TPO makes decisions. This is an organization that is housed within the City of Winston-Salem Department of Transportation. This is said to be the lead planning agency. So even though our staff here work for the city, we also work for the region. All of the plans that we develop are regional in nature, and all of the funding decisions are regional in nature as well. Decisions get made through this workflow right here. Staff will bring a recommendation based on a plan, local knowledge, and public input, refer it to a technical coordinating committee made up of staff from each of those member agencies, those municipalities that you saw on the map. These are technical experts. They tend to be city managers or local planners, and they refer the final recommendation to the Transportation Advisory Committee, which is made up of elected officials from each of those member agencies that you can see on the screen. Important note here, the TAC meets almost monthly at 4:15 p.m. on the 3rd Thursday of the month, and our schedule is published on our website, which we'll reference in just a moment. At the county level, Forsyth County is represented on the Technical Coordinating Committee by Kyle Haney, the Deputy County Manager, Carrie Gentry and Jordan Payne through the Office of Environmental Assistance and Protection. There are 2 representatives on the City-County Planning Board, as well as a representative from the Smith-Reynolds Airport. The TAC representatives, there are 2 according to the Memorandum of Understanding. Currently, we're represented, or the Forsyth County representation is Commissioner Dan Bessie, and the 2nd member will be named at a later meeting. Taking a step back, the work of the TPO can be defined in 6 key areas: long-range planning, public involvement, funding and programming, project planning and studies, data and performance measures, and regional coordination. In this slide, I'll focus more on projects and funding. Throughout the Forsyth County area, there are about 122 projects that have been funded as a result of the MPO and state's work. And this value is around $1.4 billion over the course of the next 10 years. The TPO's role in developing the Transportation Improvement Program is fairly straightforward, and it starts with the involvement in the statewide prioritization process. TPO is able to submit up to 17 projects per mode of transportation. Those projects come from the adopted comprehensive and metropolitan transportation plans that the board members on the Transportation Advisory Committee have final say over. We then submit that through a quantitative scoring process to the state. Those projects are evaluated, and then there's a subsequent opportunity for Transportation Advisory Committee members to represent the interests of the public and their respective municipalities through the allocation of local input points. Through the allocation of local input points, in addition to those quantitative scores from the state, you have a better chance of getting funded as the state awards funding in rank order based on the scores received. The TPO also has programming authority over a more local bucket of funds, although it's a more narrow and smaller amount of money in the amount of about $11 million per year. It is a reimbursement program, so that funding source is available to all of the municipalities within that area, as well as our eligible transit agencies, and they can apply for those funds. We evaluate those based on adopted criteria from the Technical Coordinating Committee and the Transportation Advisory Committee, program those out over the next 5 years, and then the projects are then, importantly, constructed. The TPO also plays a role in transit funding in our area. The TPO receives an allocation of Section 5307 funding and Section 5339 formula funds for transit capital and operations. The budget for the 5339 allocation, which is for capital purchases or buses, amounts to $593,000 per year. And then the 5307 allocation, which is used primarily for operations and funding the operations of the Winston-Salem Transit Authority, Piedmont Authority for Regional Transportation, and Davidson County Transportation System, is in the amount of about $7 million. To put it in perspective, $7 million represents less than 15% of the cost of running Winston-Salem Transit Authority over the course of a year. We also receive funding through Section 5307 Job Access Reverse Commute and Section 5310, which focuses on transportation for enhanced mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities. You can see some examples of organizations that have received that funding at the bottom of this screen. For those in the crowd who may not have heard of the Transportation Planning Organization and are interested in learning more about the transportation planning process, we have very helpful links here, including the TPO's website, the Public Comment Center, and the information for how to join our Transportation Advisory Committee meetings. Finally, I would like to close with I'm always available. My information is there on the screen, my phone number and email. I'm always happy to take any questions. But in closing, today we are asking for the adoption of the Memorandum of Understanding, which confirms that Forsyth County will remain a member agency of the Winston-Salem Area Transportation Planning Organization with representation by 2 commissioners representing a total of 12 weighted votes on the board. The county further has representation on the Technical Coordinating Committee through the county manager's office, the Forsyth County Office of Environmental Assistance and Protection, the City County Planning Board, and on the Smith Reynolds Airport. In renewing the Memorandum of Understanding, the county agrees to be responsible for 29% of the 20% local match to run the metropolitan planning program in our region, which corresponds to about a $42,000 annual local match commitment on behalf of the county. In return, the county has a voice in shaping significant transportation plans and a vote on key transportation funding decisions in our area. Thank you for your time.
Hunter, I got one quick question.
Yes.
It was one of our speakers tonight actually talked about encouraging us to add to our legislative agenda an issue with our legislature on restricting issues with pedestrian and bicycle transportation rules, and that pops up on you, that you all consider. What restrictions are there on those?
That's a great question. So right now, under the state strategic transportation investments law for North Carolina, the state is prohibited on funding standalone bicycle and pedestrian projects. So what you'll see is that the bicycle and pedestrian projects that are funded through the state, so to speak, are actually using federal funds that are allocated to the state. So what that gentleman was requesting essentially was a repeal of the limitation on the use of state funds towards those bicycle and pedestrian projects. One of the potential advantages of that would be that there is typically not a local match requirement associated with state funds. With federal funds, as I stated earlier, most of those have a 20% local match commitment, which shifts more of the burden onto the local municipalities to then build those projects and budget to fund those.
Thanks for that clarification. Thank you for coming back for the short review. It was very succinct. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, question, yes.
Just a couple questions. One, when you said municipalities could apply for the grants, I assume you meant local governments could apply for the grants.
Correct.
Right. And One problem that I foresee is with the TRO beginning to schedule meetings around the county, which is a good thing, when they are on the third Tuesdays, much more often than not, that is going to cross out participation by the commissioners because that directly conflicts with our meeting time. Has there been discussion? And if not, can there be discussion about moving that meeting day to one that doesn't always conflict with the commission schedule?
So a couple of things. We can certainly bring that to the chairman, Chairman Bill Apple's attention, that's a point of discussion, that potentially limits the county's participation on the Transportation Advisory Committee. The second thing, which you rightly mentioned, is we are trying to become more of a regional organization and have kind of these traveling meetings with, the next one in May taking place in Kernersville, for example. We recognize that adds some extra travel time for you. As members, it's not as easy to get to Kernersville within an appropriate amount of time after your commissioner meeting ends as it would be to get to the Bryce Stewart Municipal Building downtown where a lot of the in-person meetings have been held. One thing that we can explore is a hybrid option for those meetings for Transportation Advisory Committee members to still be able to vote and attend. And so we can bring a couple of options to Chairman Apple, and we'll be happy to facilitate that conversation. Thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Hunter? Is there a motion to approve the resolution, the memorandum of understanding?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tanya McDaniel. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 5 is a resolution authorizing the grant and execution of an easement to the city of Winston-Salem across portions of Forsyth County-owned real property. This would allow an easement to install a sewer line across portions of Tanglewood Park. The city will pay the county a total of $115,925.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Wilson. Is there a second?
Second.
We have 2 seconds, Commissioner Bessie and Vice Chair Wizenhunt. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 6 is a resolution authorizing execution of a temporary access road easement agreement, an additional line receipt and easement agreement, and a purchase and construction agreement with Transcontinental Gas Pipeline Company, LLC. There has been some follow-up on this item, so I'm going to ask Deputy County Attorney Fred Johnson to provide an update.
Good evening, Commissioners. I was asked to give a very brief update on the Transco's requested easement across Triad Park. I hope it's a positive one. After Monday's briefing, a representative for Transco reached out to us, and we had a series of phone calls, email discussions, and ultimately, yesterday afternoon, Transco revised its offered compensation from $110,000 to $180,000. I do have to note that the now $96,000 of its offer is contingent on approval by tomorrow, March 6th. And then again, the revenue will have to be split between Forsyth County and Guilford County. Also, after Monday's meeting, I met with staff appraisers from Forsyth County's tax administration, specifically Mary Newberry, who's a lead appraiser over the residentials, and Brent Green, who is a senior commercial appraiser. And we went through their thoughts on the market value offered by Transco. Ultimately, what they said, I'll paraphrase, but they said this is a very complex appraisal problem, but they did have some insights. One limiting factor on the fair market value of this property is that the land is simply not worth that much in that portion of Guilford County compared to land in other places in Forsyth and Guilford County. It's also further complicated by the fact that we have overlapping easements. The county's position is that some of this is new easement, but it's certainly true that some of it is existing easement, and that further limits the potential fair market value for this property. And ultimately, they are of the position that that the value was reasonable and could be supported. So I don't want to sound like I'm advocating for Transco or pipelines generally. I'm not. I really care about this stuff, and I truly appreciate the board's unanimous efforts to highlight the safety concerns and the environmental concerns associated with this pipeline. But that being said, I've been asked directly, unambiguously by several people to give my opinion on Transco's offer. And my honest opinion is this is a really strong offer. This offer helps protect our park, keep our park open. It limits the potential disruption to the park. And also, I think, really is within reasonable ranges in terms of compensation. I'd be happy to take any questions, and I should add that we did touch base with Guilford County. They are happy with this development, and they're going to be able to process the documents in time if this board approves this request.
Fred, just a real quick question, maybe just for the listening audience, would you mind just talking about the authority that Transco has now that FERC has approved that, and maybe talk a little bit about their eminent domain, essentially, authority?
Yes, so there are federal and state regulators involved in approving this pipeline. As of today, Transco has all necessary permits and approvals from its regulatory bodies, and specifically it has what's called a certificate of necessity. I can't remember the exact phrase of the document, but they have a... Yes, sir. Convenience and necessity. And that vests in them eminent domain, which means they have the authority under federal law to take the property and pay us fair market value. So there is a compulsory process. This is a voluntary process. It helps us protect our park. There are things that Transco has agreed to that probably, frankly, cost them money, but are more beneficial to the park. It's timelines for reopening the walking trails, restrictions on the number of hours that the road can be closed, ability to get the public over the road during road closures and get emergency vehicles into this park at all times. So there are, concessions in this agreement that Transco has made that are beneficial for the park. So, but there is a compulsory process if it comes to that, and I think, unfortunately, in my discussions with Transco, their timeline for this is not very long. They're thinking weeks, not months, to get this started. So I'm not thrilled about the timeline that this board has. Ultimately, the offer itself, I think, is within reasonable ranges and it potentially protects the park.
Other questions?
Is the fast tracking under eminent domain in this proceeding a function of federal statute?
That is the authority to condemn, I'm pretty sure, comes from the federal government. That's a good question. That I don't know whether we would be state court or federal court, if that was your question.
It was. In federal court, then there would be an expedited proceeding?
Yes, so...
as opposed to state court?
Yeah, so there's a process called quick take where when you file the lawsuit, the title vests, and the sole issue is compensation at that point. So that means they can start construction and potentially be done with construction before we even get to having a value from them for what they took.
I do have one question about the compulsory scenario to help citizens understand what could ultimately be a cost to us if it went to that state, if we didn't pass it tonight. So it goes into eminent domain kind of scenario. What could be the possible effect if it goes to that state on the county?
Yeah, it's a big risk. And Gordon talked about this a little bit on Monday. The only thing we'd be entitled to would be fair market compensation. Parks have a lot of value that's not going to shine through in that analysis. So there is a downside risk if this went to litigation that is significant. And again, there's no real process to protect the park. So we'd get compensation if the park was closed. Presumably, we'd get compensation for that, but you'd have a closed park. So there are real downside risks if this goes through that compulsory process. And also, I should add, we have some disagreements with Transco over what rights they already have at Triad Park. But luckily, I think we've really been able to get a resolution where we don't have to address those disagreements right now. But there is questions about how wide their easements are out there currently that are ambiguous and could really hurt our potential recovery in an eminent domain lawsuit.
Do you think we would incur any legal costs?
Yeah, I should have said that first. Yes, absolutely. There would be significant legal costs.
That's what I was trying to get at too, to help the citizens understand the position we're in. I think for me, I don't agree with the pipeline issue from an environmental standpoint, but when we think about what our choices are, and they're going to get it anyway by way of eminent domain, I think we just need to try to help the public understand where we are as a commission as simply as we possibly can.
And the retention of legal counsel and expert witness fees would be part of the litigation cost?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I did receive I don't know if I don't remember who all it was sent to, but I got a copy of it anyway, an email today that really was speaking to the issue of trees that are being cut down, particularly in the access roads, and that it actually provides a great deal. It was commenting on where the actually pipeline work was going on currently, and said there were a lot of trees that it appeared to be unnecessary. This is somebody's opinion. They're repeating somebody else, I believe. But it was just talking about, I don't know where it's on the map, the access road, but it certainly doesn't show what kind of trees. I guess it's kind of a hope that their choice of access road would, protect as many of the big trees that are well established. Now, obviously, small trees and scrub trees will grow back, and we'll be able to grow back on that area anyway. But you can't grow back on the additional easement. Wherever the easement is, trees are prohibited wherever the additional easement occurs. And so we are accepting that, but I don't want to belabor it over that, other than that's kind of one of those things that you'd hope that they would, maybe the slightly further route, you might protect a whole, stand of very large trees.
Understood. I'm going to let Chris respond to that.
I can speak to that a little. The access road, from what we've looked at and all of the stuff that's come from Transco, the access roads will not affect any trees. Okay, good. The only trees that will be affected will be in the right of way where the taking is taking place. I did a quick takeoff measurement of that earlier today. It's about 1.5 acres. It's all scrub pine trees. Okay. It's basically an old field succession where it was a field farm, and it's grown up in pines, and it's just on the edge of their right of way. That's what it will be. That's what's being taken out.
Thank you. That is helpful.
And all of the work in Triad Park will occur in Guilford County?
Correct.
Okay.
Any further questions? Do we have a motion?
I'll move approval of the resolution.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Wizenhut to approve. Is there a second? I'll second it. Do we have discussion?
Yes, I believe Mr. Bessie does also. Go ahead if you do.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, before the conversation begins, just to clarify that the motion in your packet was the old motion from Monday. It says $110,000.
Thank you.
This motion would be for $180,000.
Correct.
Thank you. I'll certainly second that. Okay.
I won't repeat my comments from Monday. I will just note that while the county would be taking a risk in litigation, so would the company. I don't think they want to take that risk.
Well, I would just say that I'm glad to see that they did raise it fairly significant, probably somewhere it's not exactly where it needs to be, but it's a lot closer. And, Mr. Attorney, is it not correct that in North Carolina, whenever eminent domain is into play by a government entity, just because that eminent domain is allowed, that does not do away with the value of the property? Don't set that aside. That is still, that's what could be done in court, but that's probably, well, I'm glad they raised it because I for certain would not have. I'm gonna reluctantly go along with it, but for certain I wouldn't have. I come to that conclusion last night.
Any other discussion?
Just one more thing. It is a significant raise in the offer, and I won't try to pull the wool over my colleagues' eyes by suggesting this would be a slam dunk on our part. And if I will vote no, but if you conclude that it's the best offer we're going to get, that's your call.
All righty. Last call. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Maybe the reason that they waited till yesterday or today to inform the county, they might have had to go borrow a little money to bank. All that their net worth is $90 billion, so they might have had to borrow a little bit.
There's two oppositions. I oppose.
Yeah, let's, why don't you hold your hands up on this one. All in favor, please hold your hand up. Those opposed? All right. Motion carries 4-3.
Agenda item number 7 is a resolution approving refunds by the tax assessor collector in the amount of $222,835.13.
Do we have a motion? Motion by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda items 8 through 11 are our reports. 8 is the January contribution-based benefit cap report. 9 is the January financial report. 10 is the ARPA disbursement status report. And 11 is the updated Medicaid and Medicare fee schedule for the Forsyth County Department of Public Health.
Do we have a motion to accept reports? Motion by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Wizenhut. Any discussion?
Yes, I just wanted to speak on the American Rescue Plan, ARPA Fund, and the status of one of the organizations, over $500,000 that came back to the county. Very disappointed in terms of their not being able to utilize those funds. So in the future, we probably need to do a better job in vetting the amounts that individuals are requesting, and to make sure that they can utilize the funds so that they do not return back. Thank you.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Agenda item number 12 is our added item. It's a resolution approving legislative goals and submission of such goals to the North Carolina General Assembly. This list was compiled with the board and staff. It would establish the top 3 priority goals based on board feedback. The first one being the property tax issue, second, the cure violence program, third, special assistance program expansion. Other goals are also identified for the commissioner, staff, and our lobbyists to continue to advocate with the legislators.
Any comments?
I just was going to make a motion to approve, and I do have some comments.
Okay. Motion to approve by Commissioner Bessie. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner McDaniel. Now, discussion.
Yes, sir. I would just note from the discussion on Monday, I have asked that we enter into conversation with the school board's representatives regarding some shared priority items, such as were referenced this evening, specifically directed at lifting the cap on exceptional children funding, and perhaps the assistant principal funding as well. But that, Clearly, that would need a joint discussion with the Board of Education. The other thing that I would like to note is, as I recall, Mr. Chair, we did submit a request for repeal of that restriction in state statute a couple of years ago. I don't think I'm misremembering that, but I'd like for our attorneys to take a look at the particular provision. It was pretty simple, as I recall, just a request to repeal the restriction on state funding. As our gentleman from the TAC, the Transportation Planning Organization noted, it's one specific provision in statute with a limitation, so it would not be a complex ask and could easily be added later on if the commission approves.
And it seems like we also, now that you mentioned that, I think I do remember that part, but we also had, we actually included the Greenway kind of discussion. Some of our first speakers today talked about the kind of greenways as a priority. It could be lower down, and I would have no objection adding that, because I think it is important for all the reasons that were mentioned. It's not in our top three, but I think I have no problem including that if there's agreement to do so.
And if that's something we could add in concept with the language to be drafted up later, I'd be happy to take that as a friendly amendment.
Any other comments about that, or any other? So is your motion to adopt exactly what our attachment on documentation, you want to add 2 amendments to that? Is that what you're suggesting?
I think the cooperation with the school board could be carried on informally, and we could add agenda items later that came out of that.
I can give you a real quick update on that. I did talk to the superintendent. They have not adopted their legislative goals, but they are in the process. He sent me some draft ones, but it's very draft. But I think they'll be close to hopefully getting to something that we could then potentially discuss and amend later.
Yeah, I don't want to hold up our lobbyist work on the important items that we have specifically identified as priorities. So, you know, I'm comfortable with adding the extra item on the funding limitation repeal, if that is satisfactory to other members of the commission. If you're more comfortable waiting till you see the language in front of you, I think we could do it that way too. So I'm asking for feedback, I guess.
I will confirm that was a goal in the past, that fix. We obviously didn't get it accomplished, but that was a goal in the past.
Yeah.
And we also at the same time include greenways in that same year, same proposal. I think it was 2 years ago. You don't remember? I don't either.
If I'm remembering correctly, we had identified the Piedmont Greenway as a priority item, and did get a planning grant on that.
We did, and I know Chris Weevil could probably, sorry to put you on the spot, Chris, but he could definitely give you a quick update on where we are with the Greenway project.
We are in the process of getting an interlocal agreement between the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, Guilford County, and Forsyth County for design and engineering of the Phase 1 and Phase 2 of the Reedy Creek segment of the Piedmont Greenway. That segment goes through the entirety of Triad Park, and it will go from the center of basically downtown Kernsville to the western extent or the western boundary of Triad Park. So it's roughly 3 miles. I don't have my numbers right in front of me, but it's roughly 3 miles of Piedmont Greenway that will be built, or not built, but designed. So we'll have that design. I think you've heard some of the information tonight. We have those designs in hand. That helps us score better, when we get to, asking for additional funds for, portions of the rest of the, or for at least for the construction is what I'm trying to say. So having these plans is going to be very big. Once we get the signature, I'm sorry, with the town of Kernersville as well. I forgot to mention them. We get that signature. We'll be waiting on Guilford County, and then it will come to this board for you to approve. And once that goes into effect, that is basically, I think you heard tonight, somewhere of the Great Trails State Program. The PTRC actually won a $500,000 grant for that. So Forsyth County is supplying matching funding on the amount of $130,000, as is Guilford County. Kernsville supplying, I think it's $25,000. Don't quote me on that, but they're supplying also a match to make up that. So it's going to be roughly $800,000 that will go into the design and engineering of that roughly 3-mile section of the Piedmont Greenway. So that's.
And when do you expect that to be finished?
The design and engineering, we've got 3 years basically to get that done. So we don't have the funding in place yet. We've got to get these agreements in place so we can get the funding all lined up, so we can actually put out RFPs, what have you, for the design and engineering, for design and engineering work.
So the timing for that actually may be after we have the plans in hand, and then say, now we would like to request funding to fund this proposal now that we have the engineering study. That sounds reasonable. Thank you, Chris, for that.
And Mr. Chairman, I can confirm that 2 years ago for the 2024 short session, we did ask for funding for the Greenway.
Good, okay, that's good. So we got that, all that links. So I guess what we're down to is the attachment they received on our current goal list, plus, if I'm hearing you correct, Commissioner Bessie, the one item on the pedestrian to basically to eliminate that restriction on pedestrian and bicycle.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And you agree to second that motion? All right, so the motion has that one small amendment to it. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, no further business. We stand adjourned.